If you want to get stronger in the gym and you're super busy and don't have a lot of time, there are really only two things you need to focus on. Number one is compound exercises, and number two is progressive overload. If you can just focus on these two things, you can get stronger even if you only have 15, 20 minutes per session, which of course it would be ideal that you have more, but you can make some progress. And the cool thing is the workout we're about to go over is proof of that, where I had very, very little time, had to take care of some things when the normal time that I would work out, and was still able to get a productive session. And the reason I can say that with absolute confidence is this video that I'm about to show on my workout is 2 weeks old, and the previous week, this past week of workouts, I did get stronger with even a little bit better technique too. Well, this up for debate. I guess we'll see next time. But for the sake of this one, if you're able to focus on compound exercises and then maybe adding a little bit of weight to the bar, shooting for a little bit more reps, whatever it takes for you to get better than you did last session, you will absolutely make progress. It doesn't necessarily matter the rep range so much. It doesn't really matter the exercise selection to a degree. It doesn't really matter how many sets you're doing to a degree. What really matters is those two things. And for the sake of example, we're gonna go over my workout here so you can see a real live example of someone who has so little time to work out and a horrible sleep schedule and still is able to make progress. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and put the workout on the screen right here. And we're starting it off with my upper body day bench press day, which essentially I do an upper body day twice a week and I do a lower body day once per week. And that just seems to be suited to my goals, which is getting my upper body stronger, bigger, and not so much worrying about legs, but not ever skipping legs and making my leg day a manageable way that I never want to skip it. But as you can see here, we're doing 160 pounds on the bench press. We're shooting for 2 sets of 3 reps. And the reason we're only doing 3 rep sets is because we want to increase the weight. And by we, I mean me. I want to increase the weight as fast as I possibly can by doing no fewer than 3 reps. If I get less than 3 on a given week, I stay at that weight till I get 3 and then increase the weight again. And then with the barbell rows, the idea was to match the weight that I'm doing with bench press with barbell rows, so I have the equal push and equal pull strength. But in this case, I, for whatever reason, took the 2.5 pound plates off the side and just did it with 155. And it seemed to, actually, no, I took off, 155. Anyway, I took off all the side weights there and seems to be doing okay. Like I'm trying to still add reps onto that as well and then add weight as we go on. But whatever it is, again, following that rule of progressive overload, just trying to do better than I did last time. And another way you can do better than you did last time isn't so much always reps. On these chest flies, one thing I've been focusing on is I've realized that a lot of the times what I'll do is when I come down for the fly, I'll bend my arm quite a bit. So instead of having my arm out like this, like a really good stretch at the bottom, I'll have my elbow bent and it almost turns it into a press. And what happens is across the set, like I'll start with my arms out wide and then over the set, I get a little tired or whatever it is, I start to bend my elbow more, which does make it easier. It's more of a stable position. So I'm trying to fix that and just keep the reps looking exactly the same. And this is still better than I did a couple weeks ago, but I definitely need to improve it even further, where I'm really getting that good stretch on the chest muscles as I go down and really putting the focus on that, not so much the shoulders, not so much the triceps, and really try to take those other 2 muscles out of the mix to focus on the chest because they are chest flies. And then now we're moving on to my absolute favorite way to build my arms, and this actually worked incredibly well in 2018, where I do the giant set. I talked about this in the last video and maybe even the one before that, where I do the curls and then followed by tricep extensions, followed by lateral raises. And this is definitely not the optimal way to train. It is much better to give each exercise its own focus, where you do a set, you rest for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, and then do another set, rest for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, do the next exercise, or however many sets you're doing on that exercise, give a good rest, do the next exercise, rest properly in between sets, and then do the final exercise. But in the case of what we're talking about here, when you don't have a lot of free time, sometimes stuff like supersets or giant sets, which I'm doing right here, can be a very productive use of time because you're going to get more stimulus on more muscles on very little time. And in this case, I'm doing 3 exercises in a 1 or 2 minute period, and that's very, very time efficient, even if it isn't the most optimal way to train for each individual muscle. But when you focus on the compound exercises more than the isolation exercises, you're hitting all these muscles much more aggressively with a heavier weight on those compound exercises like the bench press and rows. And this is kind of just a little bit extra, like on top of what you've already done to stimulate the muscle. And it seems to work out pretty well. When I did it in 2018, I was able to get the biggest, veiniest arms that I'd ever had. And we're gonna bring those back because, you know, hey, why not? And all I did then was 3 times a week with this. Now we're gonna do it twice a week when I have time, which we'll talk about probably more in the next video. But in this case, I was only actually able to do it once this week. Moving on to leg day, which is the most basic leg day you'll probably ever see on the internet, which is squats and deadlifts. That's it. I would like to add some kind of like standing leg curl or laying leg curl or seated leg curl. I just don't have a leg curl machine. I have a barbell, plates, and a squat rack and a bench. And I probably could do some kind of split squats, but I just absolutely cannot stand them. And one of the trickiest things with working out is, yes, sometimes you have to do things you don't necessarily want to do, but if there's something you absolutely hate doing and you're not gonna stick with it, why even write it in the program? Like I won't stick with split squats, I just can't stand them. So I'm not gonna write them in my program so I could just miss them every week and never do them and then just kind of like feel a little bit bad because I wrote them in there and I never do them. So that's why I do it this way. I love squats, I love deadlifts, and we're gonna get stronger on these. And with deadlifts, I still have not gotten around to buying more weight plates. So I only have 220 pounds. So what I've decided to do, instead of switching to Romanian deadlifts, I've switched back to conventional deadlifts. And we're just trying to increase the reps as much as I can before, I don't know, maybe another month or so, I'll go ahead and bite the bullet and buy some more plates so I can go up to 310 pounds, not quite 315, or maybe I'll buy another 10-pound plate or something, because I would really like to increase the deadlift because we're doing reps on reps on reps on these 220-pound deadlifts, as I should, considering I've been training for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. But we're just going to keep on adding the reps until I get more weight, and that's how I'm going to do it. And it seems to be working out pretty good. Now, moving on to the last day, which is overhead press and chin-ups. Or no, I keep saying chin-ups because I did them for years and years. Overhead press and pull-ups. And this is actually going to be the last day that I put on way too much weight and try to press it, because it just doesn't seem to be getting me any further. And it kind of spends a little bit of energy. Initially, it helped a lot because my body was getting used to handling heavier weight. But now that we're ramping up the weight in the set to 3, it's actually been more beneficial to do the set to 3 and skip out on that heavy half rep or quarter rep or whatever you want to call it. And now we're getting up into the low 100s of overhead press, and it seems to be just increasing over time, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then now we're moving on to the weighted pull-ups. It looks like I got 20 pounds on the weight belt right there, and just trying to increase the reps on that as well. And what our goal is to get the 25-pound plate on the weighted pull-ups to 8 reps. So I figure there's 2 ways I can approach this, just like I'm doing with everything else. One way is that I keep adding weight, going well beyond 25 pounds, and then when it comes time to see how I did on my goal, drop it back down to 25 pounds. Alternatively, I could just try to keep increasing rep by rep, which is, it's very mentally tough to keep using the same weight week after week after week after week for months. It's going to be months by that point, about 3.5 months, 4 months, somewhere around there. And just trying to add reps because there's going to be a couple weeks in a row maybe that I'm using the same weight for the same reps and it feels like you're not getting anywhere. So I'm going to have to decide what I want to do with that. But for the sake of now, I've already got 25 pounds, which you'll see in the next video where I do my workouts. And maybe we'll just see where we can go for a couple weeks and then decide from there. But anyway, the whole point is compound exercises, progressive overload. That's how you make progress, even if you don't have much time. That last workout that you just saw, which was the overhead press and the weighted pull-ups, took me like 15 minutes of actually working out, and then I probably spent a little bit too much time on my phone. But if I cut out the phone time that went well beyond my normal rest periods, it was like 15 minutes. It was like 25 total, including the way too long rest times. And that's it. That's all it took in order to make that happen. And like I said, you'll see in the next workout video, I've made progress since then. Just by doing that, it's enough stimulus. Now again, I just want to reiterate for the people that may think that I'm recommending this as the best way to train. Absolutely not. I would think if you want the absolute best way to train, in my opinion, from what I've seen, my own experiences in the past, and what the research is kind of saying right now, it is a 4-day routine upper, lower. And in my opinion, doing a heavy day and a light day, because that way it gets you kind of both ends of the spectrum. And then on the light day, it's kind of more recovery based because you're not really going too crazy heavy. But on the heavy day, you're just going all out, hitting it. And then the light day you can use for technique practice since you're using lighter weight, or you can just get some more reps in, get some extra blood flow in, promote the healing and all that kind of sciencey stuff. According to science, I'm not a scientist. Disclaimer, this is not medical advice, all that kind of stuff. But that's, in my opinion, the best way you can train. This right here is for someone who doesn't have much time, who wants to get stronger, who wants to put on some muscle, who wants to complement a good diet to help you get in better shape by dropping the fat, while when you're in a deficit, you don't have as much energy, calorie deficit, you don't have as much energy, so you need to have a very efficient program where it's not going to completely burn you out, because dieting after a while can kind of get you feeling that little bit extra tiredness by itself. So something that pairs well with that as well. It's a really good overall way to train by just focusing on those two key principles and really just pushing as hard as you can and making sure you're also getting that recovery and sleep into, which is something I definitely have to work on, which I have not figured out yet. But if I do figure anything out to help you get more sleep, I will definitely absolutely share that. So with all that said, thank you for watching this. If you want more help getting in shape, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and send me a DM. I'm helping a lot of people out in the DMs now, and also fitdadinnercircle.com. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, click the like button, do all the fun stuff with the social media stuff if you appreciated this video in any way whatsoever. I do appreciate you being here, but that's all for now. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video. And also, this video has been up here if you want to go check it out too. Peace.